Now we have the last subunit from the allocation of resources, the mixed economic system, that is 2.11. So what do we have to cover within this subunit, mixed economic system? Definition of the mixed economic system and government intervention to address the market failure. The previous topic we discussed in detail what is market failure, the causes of market failure, the consequences, and now we will learn how to address the market failure. So what do we need to do within this detailed area? We need to first start with definitions. We need to draw some drawings, some schedules, some interpretation showing effects of three government macroeconomic policy measures, maximum and minimum prices for product, labor and foreign exchange market, indirect taxation, subsidies, and some basic definitions. So let us first start with the definition of mixed economic system. Mixed economic system is a midway house between planned economic system and free market economic system. So an economic system that is a mixture of market and planned economic system. Or you can define it this way, a free market system with state interventionism to correct market failure. Or an economy that consists of private and public enterprise. This is how you can define a mixed economic system. We need to first define the key terms. First is the macroeconomic policy. Macroeconomic policy, the word suggests macro means for the whole economy. So macroeconomic policy is the policy which affects the whole country or any particular region. It is primarily concerned with the government policy regarding money supply in the economy, interest rates, government spending, government taxation, policy on trade, policy on exchange rate. We'll discuss them all, and that will, of course, all these will affect the economic growth, the general price level in the economy, as well as the employment level. So macroeconomic policy is the policy which affects the whole country or any region of the country. And these policies that I've just discussed, we'll discuss them in detail. Next, foreign exchange rate. The foreign exchange rate means the price of one currency in terms of another. Government does have a policy on exchange rate as well. Like for example, currently the exchange rate of $1 is equal to around 154 PKR. So government does have a policy to which band should they keep the exchange rate fluctuating. We'll discuss in detail. Next is indirect taxation. Indirect taxation means sales tax, value added tax, or goods and services tax. This tax is charged on consumption. This tax is made the part of the price of product. For example, if I buy an item for $50 and $5 this represents sales tax. Eventually the whole tax has been paid by me. The ultimate economic burden of tax is on the consumer. Such tax which is made as the part of the product, like excise duty or tariffs, VAT, etc., are called indirect taxation. So how can we define indirect tax? It's a tax collected by some intermediary like a retail store or some producer, and the tax is charged from the person who bears the ultimate economic burden of the tax, the end consumer. Next we have the key term subsidies. Subsidies are the sum of money granted by the government or any public body to help an industry or any business so as to keep the prices low. What does it mean? For example, a farmer wants to sell his produce at $6 per kg, but the price is too high. The government will subsidize the price. Government will pay $2 to the farmer so that the price can be reduced from $6 to $4. Eventually, the consumer pays $4 and the government pays $2. So the price is subsidized by the government because it's a commodity that is a staple food, wheat for example. So the farmer receives $6, $4 from the customer, $2 from the government, but the consumer only pays $4. This is called subsidy. So subsidy basically is a sum of money granted by the government to help an industry, a farmer, or a business to keep the prices of a commodity low or keep the price of the service low so that people can afford it. Okay, next. Regulations. Regulations, simply they can be defined. They are the laws. Regulations are the laws that control the way how a business can operate. We have regulations on health and safety. We have regulations on environmental impacts, because we want to protect the environment. Government wants to protect the environment. So we have certain laws how the business can operate in a particular domain in a particular region. Privatization. Privatization is the transfer of governmental property or businesses to the private sector. So we can describe it as a transfer of ownership of property or business from government to the private sector. This is called privatization. So in this way, government will stop owning the property that has been privatized. So the process in which the publicly traded companies are sold to the private individuals, it's called privatization. The reverse to this is called nationalization. In privatization, state-owned organizations are sold to private individuals. In nationalization, the private organizations are bought by the government. So nationalization is the reverse of privatization. So the transfer of major branch of industry or a commerce from private to state ownership or control is called nationalization. And then the direct provision of goods and services. Government itself in the mixed economic system is a provider of goods and services. So direct provision of goods means the provision of merit goods and public goods. We have discussed these previously. So government control the supply of these two types of goods, merit goods and public goods, because both have positive externalities, right? For example, by supplying high amounts of education, we can have more competent workforce in the future. Parks for health, libraries for knowledge, etc. Likewise, through taxation, government can discourage the consumption of certain harmful goods, placing taxes on certain goods to discourage use, for example, alcohol, drugs, cigarettes, etc. Now, next, government intervention to address market failure. That is something linked with the previous topic. We will study about maximum and minimum prices for products, labor, foreign exchange markets, indirect taxation, and subsidies. So this is specifically included in your syllabus. First, government intervention to address market failure. Maximum and minimum price for a product. Let's say this is a typical diagram, demand of a product and supply of a product. This is the equilibrium quantity, this is the equilibrium price. If the government thinks that the price is too high, government can place a maximum price limitation on it. For example, the current price is, let's say, $100 per unit, and government thinks the price is too high. So government can set a maximum price limit on this particular product of, let's say, $70. Let's say it's a commodity, government thinks that it should be of $70. The price shouldn't be more than 70. So remember, the maximum price is set below the equilibrium point, so as to make sure that the provision of this good is made available to a larger number of people. And to the contrary, the minimum price, in order to support farmers, it is set above the equilibrium price. Remember, maximum price for a particular product to support the customer, it is set below the equilibrium point, and minimum price to support the producer, it is set above the equilibrium point. Remember, maximum is below, minimum is above. This is the easier way to remember in opposite direction. Maximum is below the equilibrium point and minimum is above the equilibrium. So maximum price is set to support the customer or consumer, and minimum price for product is set to support the producers. So this is how government intervenes to correct the market failure. Moving on, we have similar arrangements in our labor market also. Government can intervene in the labor market also. And let's see, the current equilibrium quantity and equilibrium rate of labor or wage is this, and government can intervene to fix the market failure. Government can set the minimum and maximum price. In the same way, government can set the maximum wage rate that is set below the equilibrium point, and government can set a minimum wage rate that is above the equilibrium point in order to correct the market failure. Then moving on, government intervention to address the market failure related to the price of currency. For example, right now, government thinks that the current exchange rate is PKR 100 per dollar. This is the demand for dollar, supply for dollar, and this is the current exchange rate, PKR 100 per dollar. And government thinks that the price has been set too high. Government can intervene in the market through direct operations. The government can keep the price to as low as maybe $80, 80 rupees per dollar. This is the maximum price of rupees in terms of dollar, and minimum could be set above. So government in the mixed economic system where the exchange rates are managed, so government keep a band within which the foreign exchange market will operate. A rupee will not cost more than 120 per dollar and not less than 80 per dollar. So this is how the exchange rate is managed. How is it managed? We'll discuss. This is how government intervenes. We are just discussing how government intervenes to correct the market failure. So government this way can through direct market operations can keep the price of rupee between 80 to 120 through direct selling of foreign currency in the market or changing the money supply in the market through interest rates can influence the exchange rates in the market. We'll discuss in detail. So this is how government intervenes in a foreign exchange market as well. And government also intervenes through indirect taxation. Indirect taxation means the tax levied on the consumption of goods and services. When the tax is applied, let's say before tax the equilibrium quantity is QE, the price PE. When the tax is levied by the government, it will result in shifting inward of the supply curve. Resultantly, the new price would be higher. If this price PE represents the equilibrium price, this price P1, for example, will include the impact of taxes also. So supply curve will shift inwards, the quantity supplied will fall as well, and the price would go up. So government can levy the indirect taxation on certain goods and services to either reduce their consumption or to increase the government revenue, or both. Likewise, it will operate in the reverse direction if the government gives subsidies. Subsidies, as we have discussed previously, are the sum of money given to the producers of goods and services so they can supply at the lower prices. It will result in, let's say, this is the equilibrium quantity and this is the equilibrium price. If the government subsidizes the production of this good, resultantly the producer will have more resources to commit on production, so supply curve will shift outwards. Resultantly, not only you will see that the price has fallen to this level, as well as the quantity supplied has gone up. So subsidy results in reduction in prices and it results in increase in the output level. Moving on, next we have few questions. Each country of South Africa has a mixed economy. Which statement about a mixed economy is correct? The government employs most primary sector workers. It's a planned economic system. Wrong. The government owns all major secondary sector industries. Again, it's an indication of planned economic system. The government owns the transport network. Planned economic system. The government provides public and merit goods. That's the role of the government in a mixed economic system. So that makes D to be the correct option. Next, in a mixed economy, resources are used as a result of the decision of consumers only. No, government is involved also. The firms only. No, firms, governments and consumers. So that makes D. The decision of consumers, what they want. Firms, they produce with regard to what consumer wants, and the intervention of government for public and merit goods. So that's make D to be the correct option for mixed economic system, and D it is. Next, it was reported in 2002 that the South Africa, a mixed economy, would face sharp increase in air and water pollution unless action was taken to develop environmentally friendly policies for its citizens. Why is a mixed economy thought to be a satisfactory means of achieving environmentally friendly development? Why mixed economy is preferable? Because all development is paid for by the government. That is done in planned economic system. Because it allows external costs to be considered. That makes sense. In mixed economic system, external costs are considered in any economic decision. Government is involved, a part of the economy, in the form of public sector. Because it ensures development at lowest cost, because it is most productive system. We can't say mixed economic system is the most productive one. The efficient use of resources is made in the free market economic system. So the correct option is that because it allows the consideration of external costs. That is why it is considered as more environmental friendly. If you let this decision be made by the free market economic decision makers, so they won't consider the environmental impact, only the government will do. That's why B is the right answer. Next, what is always a feature of mixed economy? All capital goods are produced in a public sector? No, that's a planned economic system. Resources are used in the public sector under the private sector. Resources are used in the public sector and in the private sector. That makes sense. That is the feature of mixed economic system. The allocation of all resources is determined by the price mechanism. That is the feature of free market economic system. The public sector is larger than private sector. Again, that's the feature of planned economic system. So we can say resources are used in the public sector and private sector both. This is the feature of mixed economic system, and that makes B to be the correct option. What is true of a mixed economy but is not true of a free market economy? There is a mixture of agriculture, manufacturing and service industries. This is true both for mixed as well as free market, because these areas are available in both types of economies. There is a mixture of central authorities, firms and consumers. This is true for mixed economy system, but it is not true for free market, because in free market economic system there is no central authority, or there is no mixture of central authorities, firms and consumers. So this is basically the correct answer. It is true for mixed economic system but not true for free market economic system. But this is true for both mixed and free market economic system. There is a mixture of external benefits and private costs that they exist in both systems. There is a mixture of large and small companies, they exist in both systems. This is something that is unique to the mixed economic system and is not present in the free market economic system. That's why B is the right answer.